Welcome to Your Money. I'm Ali Velshi.
I'm Christine Roman. Not your usual Your Money theme music, right? That's Rock and Roll All Night by Kiss. You know, being a rock star and selling life insurance couldn't be farther apart, but our next guest has done both and much more. By the way, he says he's not an insurance salesman, Ali. He says it's estate planning.
Yeah, we just wanted, I think, to make the point that Gene Simmons, who many of you will know, I was a big Kiss fan when I was, there he is, Gene Simmons. Good to see you again, Gene.
Good morning.
You know Gene from Kiss, but he has, since his Kiss days, built a vast business empire, reality TV show, a record company, now a life insurance company. He's a co-founder of Cool Springs Life. Now, Gene, just sit there for a second. I want to tell you, Christine and I are pretty smart about business.
Right.
But Christine, I have to tell you, I have difficulty understanding life insurance or universal life insurance. It's a complicated issue. So
it is.
Just let me try and spell this out. This is how most people experience the world of life insurance. You decide on a benefit that either your estate or your beneficiaries are going to get when you die. You decide how long you're going to pay for that insurance policy.
That's right.
So let's say you're 40 years old. You may want to not pay after you're 55 years old. So over 15 years, you've got to cover all the premiums. So they'll give you a price for what that premium is that'll cover that insurance policy. Typically, those premiums are invested by the insurance company. So there's some risk and inflation comes into it. But bottom line is, if you want an insurance policy that's paid up when you're 55 or 60 years old, you have to pay a certain amount every month.
That's right.
And then when you die, hopefully that gets paid out to your estate or your beneficiaries. Now, Gene, you've got something going on here with this new company. And I have to just start by saying it's for the very rich. But we're hoping that someday it'll be for everybody.
Let me explain something.
You get to do all that, but you don't pay for the premium. You don't pay for the insurance.
Ali Velshi is a powerful and attractive man, and you're a high net worth individual because you worked for it. Every day you come into work, you deserve it. You want to make sure your loved ones and your family have as much of that estate money as possible, and you don't like paying the yearly life insurance premiums. No cash out of pocket to you. We loan you as much money as applicable in your life insurance policy. What that means is, since you're going to be paying a rate of 1.25%, the escrow is in your name. We don't control it. You do. You'll be able to get much more on the interest you get off of that. You'll be able to pay off your life insurance premium and even minimize your estate taxes. This has never existed before.
Let me see if this makes sense. So basically, you're loaning me the money to pay these premiums until this insurance policy is paid up, and you'll take that money back out of that loan once I die and once that benefit is paid out. So basically, you're giving me a life insurance policy without me paying the premium.
With no cash out of pocket to you.
Gene, you stay right there. When we come back, we're going to take a look at how much is being spent per child for education in this country. Gene has a particularly interesting perspective on education, something more personal than most of you would have known, but the numbers on how much we spend per child in this country might just surprise you.
Public school spending out of control, often hiding the real price tag. Well, that's according to a new report out by the Cato Institute. Cato looked at school districts in the nation's 5 largest metro areas. An average $18,000 was spent per student, but only $12,500 per student was reported. New York spent the most per student, coming in at $26,900. Washington, D.C., $22,400. Los Angeles invests $19,000 per student. L.A. underreported their spending by a whopping 90%. This according to Cato. Misleading official data is one expensive lesson for states trying to avoid billion-dollar budget shortfalls. Let's see what our guests have to say about this. I'm joined by author and satirist Joe Queenan, and back with us is rock star and business mogul Gene Simmons, who used to be a teacher. So
sixth grade.
Sixth grade teacher in Spanish Harlem.
Yeah.
So, all right, so so you're the educator in the bunch. Why all these disparities in education spending across the country? Why do you think they're vastly underreported in some places?
Which one of us?
That's you.
Me. There's a very simple idea. We're weak. We're weak-spined. I wanted to take off my glasses just for the impact. We don't have the guts to hold teachers accountable. We don't have the guts to hold young people accountable. If you don't make a grade, there's no repercussion. You know, in other countries, they throw you out of school.
Here's the issue that I have, and I think the president is being particularly tough on teachers and teachers' unions, particularly in public schools. But Joe, let me ask you this. How much of it can we heap on the teachers? How much of it is maybe not effective spending in schools? How much of it is kids not getting the support at home that they may need? How much of it is the tens of millions of kids who go to school hungry? And we know that that affects your ability to get educated. So how much of it can you say is the teachers, and how much of it is stuff around the student?
Public schools are hard to run. I mean, people are involved in a great social experiment, and that's not true with private schools. So first of all, remember, the Cato Institute is a libertarian institution that hates public education, hates public schools. So let's not forget that. So some people might say, well, we'll have to have a second look at those numbers. Be that as it may, with public schools, if you have a special needs child, you don't send your kids to private school, you send your kids to public school. That raises the cost. You have to have kids, you have to have buses going out into all kinds of neighborhoods. You have to have all kinds of security. So the idea of comparing these numbers with private schools is, I question that. Now, when you talk about the fact that the numbers are, that they're not accurate, that's a shock that our government is lying to us. I mean, it's a shock
or
that
can't keep track.
Our school board is not telling us the truth. The unions are not telling the truth. Frankly, I find that hard to believe.
We know that we're advancing toward the idea of schools being run a little bit more like businesses and being results-oriented.
Run it like a mom and pop. You know, when your mom and pop open a grocery store, they live and die by whether or not that store makes a profit every week because they have to pay their rent. Privatize some schools with government, looking over with some guidelines, government, sort of textbooks and so on, so you have this kind of unity. But a school has to be able to deliver the graduating classes, and if not, we've got to fix what's not working. A union has its own agenda to protect its own. The government is protecting its own.
I think what we can agree on is that this should be the great equalizer, no matter who you are when you get to school, no matter what the disparities are of your background or your socioeconomic status or whatever, that this should be the thing that can launch you, give you the same leg up as everyone else. And for many, it's just not working right now.
If you believe that. But a lot of people, including a lot of people at the Cato Institute, don't believe that. There's lots of people in the United States who do not believe in public education. And there's lots of people, private schools, this is a way of opting out of the system. I don't want my kids to go to school with those kids. I want my kids to be on the fast track. I don't want my kids to go to school with minorities, with working class white people. Those are people who do not believe in the public school system. And those of us who do believe in the public school system understand, yeah, it's a mess. It's an absolute mess. I mean, Philadelphia's a mess. New York's a mess.
So there's possibly as a hybrid. Gas guzzlers aren't working. Introduce a little electric, a little gas. Sometimes it's the hybrid of these things that makes it work. Nothing drastic. Nothing happens very well with revolution. Evolution is a good idea.
We've got a lot more to talk about with both of you. YouTube, looking for a very specific type of person out there, and it could help you earn extra cash. Extra cash, we'll explain. Time for one more headline with Gene Simmons and Joe Queenan. Making a buck in the music industry can be tough, but a new YouTube service could prove to be a moneymaker for indie artists. It allows them to upload their videos and get paid when people view them, including views on external sites, and they'll get a piece of ad revenue. Good for musicians, but is it good for YouTube? And what about the music industry? I guess we should let the musician weigh in on this first. What do you think, Gene? Is this the new way?
Well, in the interest of full disclosure before the fact, I never claimed to be a musician. Those are guys that play in Holiday Inns and get paid $50 an hour and all the drinks they can have. I'm an entertainer.
Okay.
I can do anything. I can juggle, I can play, I can do all kinds of stuff. And musicians just go la-di-da-di-da. I'm not in the background, I'm in the foreground. Having said that, however, it is the music industry's fault for being spineless and not holding all those freckle-faced college kids who downloaded music for free accountable like the criminals that they are. The reason the music industry is out of business is because the foxes were allowed to come into the hen house and steal as many eggs as possible. Here's what happens. The farmer's out of business. The guys that produce all the stock, the feed for the chickens are out of business. The truckers who brought the eggs to market are out of business. The stores who sold the eggs and the chickens are out of business just because this farmer was going, it's a little fox, let it in. This little hole in the ship, it's just a little water coming in. It will sink. Who's responsible? The music industry is responsible for the mess they got themselves into. Why? because they didn't have this.
Allie, he's not a musician, but he is an economist. That's armchair economics right there, if I ever heard it.
Well, Joe, let me ask you this: if Gene's right, and he probably is, he knows a lot about this stuff. Are the YouTubes of the world going to be the place where musicians and entertainers and artists can actually make the money they've been done out of because people were taking or stealing their stuff?
Crooks.
People are always sending me those OK Go videos I'm watching on YouTube, and they're great, but I don't pay anything for them. I mean, I don't pay anything for any of this stuff. So I love it, and if the musicians want to put that stuff up there for free, that's great. But you know what David Bowie said, if you want to be a musician and make money, you better get used to touring. If you think you're going to retire in style or send your kids to private school, and once you get off your YouTube videos, maybe a few bands, but there's a lot of bands out there.
We have covered a lot of ground with Joe Queenan and with Gene Simmons. Thanks for joining us, Christine.
Allie, you want to know more about all of this stuff, want to learn about money?